All right, on this video, I'm going to do an experiment. I have not done this before. So my hope is that I'm going to be working with fused glass, and I want to make a earring bracelet set, earring necklace set. And what my goal is I want to try and create this piece, something very similar. And I've seen it somewhat done before. My experiment is the fact that instead of the glass laying down on, its side, like flat, such as this, I'm going to actually lay it on its edge and stack the pieces and glue them going in this direction to make essentially a bar. On the necklace will stay flat. On the bracelet, after I do a full fuse, I'm going to do a curvature, so a slump. So it has a bit of a curve on the bracelet part. And I'm going to try some staggered pieces on that. So let's just see where this takes us. And we'll kind of go from there. All right, so I have a couple pieces prepared, and I've got some like a blue green color scheme happening here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna work on and just show you how I got those set by doing a couple cuts here. And you can see that I've got some simple straight lines in my edge cutting. And so I have discovered that I kind of like using this cutting mat. Works pretty nicely. So here goes nothing. Get some of my tools. That's an extra. So again, I've never done this before. Sometimes you see things and you want to just kind of guess how they're made. And some of our creative tasks come from experimenting, making mistakes, and figuring things out like that. So this piece is a dichroic type. It's got a pearlescent. You can see that. So I'm very curious on how that will look when I stand it up on its side. This one is a textured piece, so we'll see about that. That and that. This piece has some paper on the back, so I'm going to have to wash it off. Just some warm water and do some scraping. So I'll get that set. I've got that and that. All right, so I got a handful of pieces. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little bit of washing on some of these before I cut them super tiny. So we're just going to pause on that. All right, so I'm in the process of cutting my pieces. I just showed you how I cut them into planks. All right, and now I'm going to show you how I am getting them into much smaller pieces like these. All right, so I'm just going to use my mat. It's a little bit easier to control. Things don't slide around as much. And to kind of get myself settled, I am using just a 1/4 inch, and this mat is working pretty well. So I'm going to sneak it in. I can still see my measurement there. I'm using my finger as a guide. And then I've just gotten in the habit of I'm just keeping my cutter in my hand, but I'm going to use the runner tool. I'm going to get that right along the line, and you can hopefully see that right there. And snap. Okay, that one's a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and make some smaller ones. And I want to make these pretty darn close to the same. And something that small, when you're using the runner plier, yes, you will need to put a little bit more force on it to snap a much smaller piece. Sorry, I just realized I went off the camera there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a bunch of these. All right, so now I have a whole collection of my green. I'm gonna go ahead and take this and dump this in the trash can that's next to me. All right, so like I mentioned, I have not done this before, so I'm excited to see how this is all gonna work out in my design piece. So essentially, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sneak into my design. So this is gonna be my necklace piece. Because of the thickness of the glass, like how wide this is gonna be, I don't believe I need to put it on a clear backing. And again, this is going to be experimental, so I have to be willing to have a little bit of, experimentation to happen and allow some mistake. And I was going to kind of start stacking these pieces. Okay, I'm going to work on this design. I'm going to pause it, and we're going to see how it looks in the end. As I start to glue it, and I'll show you how to get it glued. All right, so I've got my pieces started. I am going to anticipate that I will really need to, I'll need to add more. That's my anticipation here. So just like we've learned, I'm going to get a touch of glue. A dot does a lot. And I'm going to essentially stack. Okay, so just to make, I don't know, my life a little bit easier, I'm gonna kind of make a tower here. And I'm really quite okay with color randomness. I'm not looking for a full-on pattern. I am noticing a tiny bit of a concern. That teal one is shorter than the other. That is much fatter, so that's going to alter my fuse. I don't know if you can see this kind of building up. Go. Again. So when I do fuse this, I am going to be fusing at a full fuse on this piece. When I get it out of the kiln, I'm going to anticipate the fact that it's going to be a little misshapen. I'm gonna tip this guy. Oh, there we go. All right. So you can see that I need to continue filling that space in. So I'm like looking around it. I can see a lot of different color variation with the lighting. Some of these glass pieces have a back of one color and a front of another. So that's one thing to keep aware of. And I'm going to finish filling up this stack. And I'll meet with you in just a moment. All right, so I have my necklace and bracelet set. They are glued together. I took a toothpick, kind of laid them down, did a little bit of pressing, kind of shift these around just to make sure that they're relatively even. As I mentioned, this is going to be a full fuse. I anticipate I will need to grind my edges flat, and then I'll grind it into a shape such as the rectangle, nice and even to the best of my ability. And then once it's nicely set and even, I would do a polish fuse so that the edges get glued up. So what I'm going to try on this piece is I'm going to play with a little bit of stagger. So you can see that I gave myself a drawing limit of, I don't want to go any higher than this line. I don't want to go any lower than that line. I'm going to anticipate that I will be trying a contour fuse on this. I don't know, I'm debating. I can't decide if I want to try a contour or a tack. Remember, contour will round out the edges just enough, and the hope is I'll be able to see and feel some texture along the way of the varying degree and level of glass. Um, an attack fuse is really just polishing up the edges. Because these pieces, I mean, they're not perfectly cut, right? So if I do a tack fuse on this one, I'm almost afraid that it'll have a little bit too much imperfection, but when you're doing something that's completely different from the norm, a lot of you do a sample technique. So I would probably maybe even just putting two, 3 or 4 of these together and then doing a fuse just to see how they behave. And what I'm going with this piece, yeah, I've got some movement and rhythm with my color, but I'm gonna allow some randomness happen with it. It gives us some varying visuals. So some pieces will be even, some pieces are not quite. I'm already running out of pieces of glass to cut out, which I was surprised. Put that guy there. Yeah. We're gonna plank this with another iridescent teal. It is a fave. I'm just kind of trying to notice the lighting and see what I like. I do want it to still feel even and not off kilter. Okay, so that's my stagger necklace. I'm gonna do the stagger earrings. I don't know, I wanted to see what would work best for me, the zigzag or this effect. So I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna finish that out. Okay, so I have my staggered earring set all made. It's partially dry, so I'm just gonna move it around just to make sure it doesn't stick to the table. You can see those different colors. So this would definitely be a set. This would still definitely work together because of the same color and the same idea. I'm going to plan. This is my plan. I'm going to tack fuse these two to start. And then if I don't like it, I could put it in for another firing and I can go ahead and do a contour and take it to that next level. So first I'll do a tack, and then if wanted, I'll do a contour if necessary. The necklace and the bracelet, I'm going to do a full fuse. And hope for the best because I can't go backwards. I can only go ahead and add to it. One thing I'm going to show you that I'm adding to this and giving this a shot is I'm going to make some polka dots. And polka dots will stay flat the larger they are. So I'm gonna experiment in the same fashion. So what I did is I stacked 2 pieces on top of each other to make a frit ball and act as a like a bead. I tried the previous day to drill a hole in a fused frit ball, and my drill bit was moving all around. It's very challenging. So what I've included on here is a cut piece of high fire wire, and what it does is it develops and allows me to create scooch this down, create a hook. So this hook will fuse in there. So I'm going to try one on the outside, on the back of it, and just kind of see how that works aesthetically. On this one, I cut it, created a 90-degree angle. We're going to see if that, hopefully that creates a more steady fuse. And I'm going to add some glue in there and stack these pieces on top of each other. Now this is going to have to definitely fully dry before I fuse. What I'm doing is I'm just going to manipulate this. My goal is to get that wire, strictly in the middle. get rid of that. My apologies. And get that set. So today's a day full of experiments. So when I fuse that, these two pieces, they'll have a hook. So we're going to see if I fuse that and it works really, really well. Essentially, I will be able to take a round nose plier, put a nice eyelet loop on there, and have a dangle, okay, piece of artwork. So we're going to let these dry. I'm going to put them in the kiln. They're going to go fired. All right, I'm excited.